welcome to another video. In today's video, we're discussing why is Central Oregon called a high desert? Who am I? And why do I know all this? And why should you be paying attention to what I have to say? Well, let me qualify myself here real quick, okay? So I have been aware of permaculture for about 25 years, okay? I've spent about the last 8 years seriously educating myself on not only permaculture, but regenerative agriculture as well. And then within regenerative agriculture, keyline design, which is like a whole entire process of how to, like, I could take thousands of acres that are untouched and go out and put roads, farms, housing into that thousands of acres, exactly how it should be put in there according to how the land says it needs to be put in there. So in other words, it wouldn't be a grid. Okay, so this is keyline design. I'm well versed in keyline design, well versed in regenerative agriculture and permaculture. Okay, so this is what I came out here to do. Okay, now my scientific observations are what you are about ready to hear. First of all, what is a desert? Okay, so you look at desert, just desert, okay? And it's pretty much just sand. We're talking about grass and desert, and we just kind of look at this and, oops, whoa, okay. And where does your eye go to when you're like, oh, where's the desert? Oh, you go here. This looks pretty deserty here. Is this desert? I don't even know. We can zoom in. This looks pretty deserty to me. But then again, there's a lot of rainwater runoff. So maybe it gets a lot of rain there. I have no idea. Let's go to Oregon specifically. Okay? And there's Oregon, right? And these images are typically taken in the summertime when they know they can fly over with the satellite and get good shots. So now here we're in Oregon, and you're looking around here, and it's like, okay, where is the desert, right? None of that really looks like desert, except for maybe right here. You get down here, and that looks like an actual desert. Like a real desert. Like a desert. Oh, gee. And it's named a desert. Not a high desert, not a this desert. It's just called a desert. It's desert. It's sand. It's just a ton of frickin' sand. Where all that sand came from, I don't know. But that is a desert, okay? Even if it used to be like a lake bed or whatever, it's a desert, okay? And it looks very deserty. You can get down here, and it just looks really deserty. There might be some little things growing on there. How close can we go into this desert? I don't know. I can't tell what those things are. Rocks, maybe. Okay, so we'll zoom back out here. And so that's a desert. I concur, okay? But I don't see any other deserts anywhere. This little area here, maybe? Yeah, it looks like it might be an actual water place. It's a lake, okay? With some, like, sandy dunes here. It's kind of deserty a little bit, right? So just a couple little spots here and there. But the notion that this entire area all around here in Central Oregon is a desert is actually pretty absurd. There's no desert here, right? There's no desert there. That's covered in green. There's green all around there. It's green all around here, and heavy agriculture, obviously, but even when you go in the middle, when there is no agriculture, it's covered and junipers, 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 everywhere, junipers, okay? And if there's junipers there, that means there was grass there. And grass probably currently looks very similar here to the property that I have been showing you. Okay, so I think this illustrates pretty clearly that it's not a desert. Central Oregon is called a high desert, okay? So I don't know what the distinction of a high desert is, but as you can see, there is a lot of grass that is growing everywhere, okay? And if you look, and you can see in the background, you can see millions and millions of junipers, okay? Now, those junipers are all, except maybe 0.01% of all the junipers are under 200 years old. That corresponds with when settlers started settling in this area, okay? So when you think about Central Oregon and you think about how it was settled, I'm pretty positive that Central Oregon was settled by people from the valley. So people migrated into like the Portland area, Oregon City area, and then down, I believe, and there was probably up from California as well, but it was all on the other side of those mountains. Okay? So on the other side of those mountains is the valley, okay? So that is where I believe people first started migrating into Central Oregon from the valley, okay? Now, the valley is very wet, rains all the time, okay? Massive amounts. So now you get people that are coming from there, they're coming to here, and it doesn't rain as much here. And they show up here, and what do they find? They find basalt outcroppings, they find beach sand. And being settlers, they probably didn't realize, and they found grasslands, but there was outcroppings, and there was places that had just straight up sand, okay? So being simple people that showed up here, less rain, and there's sand. Oh, and it's up in the mountains. It's a high desert. Okay, but it's grasslands. Okay? So why call it a desert? Why keep calling it a desert if it's grasslands? Marketing. This area out here has tons of resort areas. Sun River, hot springs, warm springs, there's a bunch. Indian reservations with casinos and so people coming from the other side of those mountains where it rains all the time, they want, and myself included as a kid, like this, you come over here and it's nice. But nobody comes, I never came over here in the middle of winter. I came over here in the middle of the summer to go do the whitewater rafting, so that was my perception of this area, and it was always called a high desert. So I believe the high desert has actually just kind of stuck, okay? So instead of calling it grasslands, it's just remained a high desert. And now what we're seeing is desertification. That is not a healthy habitat at all. What you're looking at over here on this property is very unhealthy. The grass is dying, the shrubs, the sage, it's not doing anything, okay? It's just extremely degraded grasslands, not a high desert. We're gonna turn it into a high desert. And I'm kind of trying to sound the alarm because I believe that it's going to reach a tipping point where the junipers, because I've seen it in certain areas, like the junipers get to a certain point and then just everything dies out. Like the junipers are just sucking everything out, everything's gone, because there's not much topsoil out here. The topsoil is only about a couple feet deep in some areas. Now I'm sure all through this whole area that you're looking at, there's differences, but the majority of all this is very similar, okay? And it's grasslands. Look at the grass growing. Look at how it grows. When you get the junipers and the sage out of here, the grass grows like crazy. I didn't plant the grass. It's just coming in. It's coming in with yarrow. There's about 5 to 7 different varieties of grass out here, okay? So if we don't want Oregon, Central Oregon to turn into a dust bowl, we need to stop calling it a high desert, because it's not a high desert. It doesn't share any traits with a desert at all. The only deserty thing was primitive people seeing, this used to be a lake. All this, as far as the eye can see, this was all a giant lake. So on this giant prehistoric lake, there was beaches. And those beaches created beach sand. So these primitive people that inhabited this area originally, they looked at beach sand and was like, it's a desert. But meanwhile, the grass coverage was far superior. And what did they do when they came out here? They put fences everywhere. They killed off the indigenous herd animals, which I know for a fact there's elk, there's deer, there's pronghorn antelope, and then there's probably even, I mean, there might have been buffalo up here. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure, but this would support buffalo. No problem. Okay, so the settlers came out here, and in the high desert, what they do? They put up fences everywhere and put cows everywhere. Well, cows eat grass, right? So how is this a desert again? It's not a desert. Ever been. It's never been. We're turning it into a desert because all the fences stop the herd animals from doing their job. We've stopped letting fire go through here, and we can see the junipers have just taken over. There's hardly any junipers. You are not looking at a juniper in this camera that is over 200 years old. Okay, so all this is recently done, and it can be undone. All right, so I think I've made my point. I hope you have a nice day. Peace. Oh, like and subscribe.